This is a Phantom Thoughts RPG a Day 2025 episode. For this year, for RPG a Day, I will attempt to use the prompts to create elements of an adventure module. So hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have everything you need that you put together party characters and go on an adventure. RPG a Day 2025, Day 10, Origin. So an origin can be a location. Where are you originally from? It can also be, where did you start from? As in, you started a journey. What location did you start that journey from? It can also be the start of something in time. When something started, when you were born, that was the point in time that you originated. Or depending on what your philosophy or religion is, the date you were conceived. It could also be the origin of something developing. When a company was founded, that's the origin of that company. Or maybe the idea that generated that company, that was the origin of that company. And everything followed after that, step by step, to where it is now. So when you talk about origins, you're talking about when or where. You could also be talking about who started something. If for a person, who are their parents? Or in the case of something like a demigod, which god created them? In terms of the adventure or the module that I'm trying to create with this, we talk about the Lamia nobles, or specifically Lamia in general as well. The AD&D Monster Manual doesn't really say much about the origin of Lamia. It just says that they tend to live in desert regions or find homes in caves or ruins. And you also have in Monster Manual 2 another sort of hybrid creature race, which, like Lamia nobles, have the lower part of a snake, the Yuan-ti. They are known for being in jungle areas, but neither of those entries talks much about why those creatures are the way they are. Why are Lamia human upper half and beast lower half, and Lamia nobles specifically serpent lower half? And the origin in this case could determine, obviously, the habitat is determined by how they originated or where they originated from. This can originate their motives, what their motives are, what their origin was. So in the case of the Lamia, they probably mostly come from the broken lands and the wasteland north of the city, because that's where we've established to this point where the Lamia nobles' lair is, in the mountains in that region. And that matches sort of the description of being desert and cave type creatures that you find in the Monster Manual. It's possible that, being from this wasteland area, they were created as sort of mutated humans and demi-humans, where they've somehow melded with creature DNA. Well, it's fancy world, probably don't have DNA, but the essence of the creatures of that region, perhaps. The Lamia nobles are creatures who were poisoned by serpents and survived somehow and were transformed, because there is no talk in either Lamia or Lamia noble entries about offspring or encountering offspring in the lair area. And if that were the case, if they were to arise from that kind of a mixture, then they wouldn't necessarily have gods, and that would mean that it would probably be suspicious to the Lamia about the Lamia nobles' conversion and dedication to a god, and that there might be some resistance to that as the Lamia nobles' intentions become clear about somehow rescuing this lost god and bringing them back to this plane, and how the virtues that this god is kind of converting this Lamia noble to goes against their own instincts to view other species as prey and each other as rivals. And so that the kindness and cooperation that this Lamia noble is suddenly starting to try to organize them into is very antithetical to who they are or what they are. That they're used to their nobles usually just exercising their power that they have over them to keep them apart, keep them in their territories, to keep the peace between them, and to keep them from exposing themselves so that they put other Lamia at risk. And now instead, the Lamia noble is trying to bring more of them into the city and find a mutual feeding ground there, but where they are closer together and where they are having to deal with each other on a more regular basis, and it goes against their nature to do that. Something else that can be looked at in this module could be the new god. What was the origin of the new god? How did it become lost? What was it seeking that caused it to go so far away that it couldn't return on its own? Was there something that sapped its power or the dedication of its followers so that it can no longer find its way back? I can also look at the origin of this city that's going to serve as sort of the base or the beginning location of this adventure. I know that I've established in the past that it's on a coast and there's some rivers that converge there, but why else was it founded there? Was there some sort of a initial what caused the initial settlement in that location? What form of government does it have? I mentioned a mayor, but that could be an appointed mayor. It could be an elected mayor. It could be a hereditary mayor, or it could not a mayor at all. I'm just simply using a mayor as a placeholder as the leader of the city, and it could be something else entirely. And what was the beginning of the various factions in the city, the guilds or the noble families, the mercenaries, the merchant companies, the major religious sects? Do some of these groups have more influence than others? Is it more of a trading post, or is there some military reason to have a city here? Is it a place that gives an advantage of some sort? Is this city kind of an independent city-state, or is it more part of another nation or a colony of some other nation? So let's take a look at some of these questions using my yes/no oracle here. Let's start with, is there a natural harbor that made them want to settle a city here in addition to where the rivers converge? And I got a simple yes. So yes, there is a natural harbor here that caused it to be established here. It's a good suitable place for establishment. Is this an independent city-state of some sort? I got the double blank. So I'm going to take that as a yes, but it is an independent city-state, but I'm going to say that there are more powerful kingdoms or nations nearby that could have influence on this city-state. Is there a military advantage to this location, which is part of the reason, which might indicate how much interest these other powers have, other political forces have? And I got a straight no, so it's not a militarily extremely relevant location. So part of the reason it's able to stay established as an independent city-state is because there's not as much interest from the powers around it, even though they probably still have some maybe financial interests. And maybe they have some families that are related to their families in terms of their nobility. So we know we have the trade routes coming in through the rivers. We know we have a port in a natural harbor. What about the wasteland to the north? Is there a lot of interest in that? Is it that much unusual for this Lamian noble merchant wife to be sending an expedition through there? So is there interest in the wasteland? And I got another blank minus. So there's not much interest in the wasteland. So this is definitely a surprising development. So there is suspicion about what is going on here. So let's look at the government. Is the government an elected government? Double plus. It is an elected mayor. So the mayor is elected. Let's see. And since it's a double plus, yes, and that probably means that the role of nobility is much lessened, and maybe only for their money. Maybe their finance is really their only way to have influence on it. And they may be the founders of a lot of the rival merchant companies to this Lamian noble. Let's see if that's the case. And I got another double blank, which is going to be a yes, but they are, let's say that one of the companies is a founded by nobility, but none of the others are. Other merchant companies are not related to any kind of nobility. And I think the last question we'll ask here is this money the source of the security of the city-state? Are they dependent, which would mean they were more dependent on mercenaries? And if the answer is no, then that may mean that they have sufficient population to have a local militia that is trained. So is their money the primary source of their military security? And again, we get a double plus. So yes, this is a sparsely populated area, and most of the people who live within the confines of the city-state are farmers and artisans and merchants and business owners, and so they just hire mercenaries for their security. So we worked out some good origins there, and so I think that covers today. Origins. The opening theme of this podcast was Strength of the Titans, and the closing music is Late Night Radio, both from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you have any thoughts or feedback, you can get in touch with me by leaving me a voice message on my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. That's 864-209-1441. Or through SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. That's www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. Or you can send me a message or an audio file on Discord, where I can be found the Pink Phantom, or through email, phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. That's phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. I don't have to play or read your feedback on the podcast if that is not your preference. Just let me know.